Good evening, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us today or this evening as we talk about our online learning platform, the Learning Site. I'm Debbie Aspitia, and we're going to be recording today's session, and it will be emailed to you after the session, after the webinar, probably sometime tomorrow. And then it'll be posted on our website as well at waysidepublishing.com. Before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm primarily have been a Spanish teacher for a number of years. And about, oh gosh, maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, Wayside Publishing contacted me and invited me to be an author on Entre Culturas 3. So full disclosure, I'm very biased about Entre Culturas and about our products. And 3 years ago, I joined Wayside full-time as one of their instructional coaches, which means I get to share what I know and love about our products with teachers like yourselves. Joining me this evening are two amazing educators. We have with us Kristen Blees, who is also an instructional coach like myself. And then we have Jen Cornell, who is also an author from Entre Culturas 3, and she is our Learning Site product owner. They are both going to be monitoring the questions this evening. And in our first hour, we're going to be showing you different features of the Learning Site. And then in the second hour, we're all going to be answering your questions. So during the presentation or after that first hour, make sure that you pose some questions for us. We just don't want to sit here twiddling our thumbs. And you can find those in the question section on the control panel, probably to the right of your screen as you're looking at your GoToWebinar window there. And then if you go down and click on the chat window, you'll see that we've posted a link for you with some addition. Yes.
Are you showing us your PowerPoint screen right now? Because we can't see it.
Oh, I am.
That's what I thought.
I am going to go back just so that you can see Kristen and Jen. Thanks, Kristen.
There, now we can see it.
Okay. So that reminds me then too, that if you're having technical difficulties at all, so jot those down in the question pane, because Kristen and Jen might be able to talk you through some of the issues, like if you're not hearing me or you're not seeing something, let us know. They're really good at this. And so that question panel is on that side panel of your screen. And then a little further down, you'll see the chat window. And we've posted a link there to our website that has additional resources on learning and teaching in this remote situation that we now find ourselves in. And we've also, under handouts, provided 2 documents that you might find really useful. The one is the Learning Site Getting Started Guide, and it's a tutorial that will walk you through each of the steps. If you're brand new to the Learning Site, some of what I'm going to share tonight may overwhelm you, just there's so much information. But rest assured, you can check out this guide and revisit some of the things I talked about. And then the other document is something that coincidentally Kristen and Jen put together, which are recommendations and strategies, tips for teaching remotely using the learning site and the resources that we have available there. Okay, so check those two out as well. Now I am going to turn my camera off, but I'll see you again when we answer questions. And these are the outcomes that I'm hoping we can address this evening. One is to navigate the learning site and move from the FlexText to Explore to the portfolio, and then to understand what those are and what they contain. And then also how you integrate those components in order to engage your students and even to provide feedback and get students to participate in self-assessment as well, especially through that portfolio piece. Before we jump into that then, I'd like to find out a little bit more about all of you. So we have 3 poll questions that we're going to ask, so please participate. Here's question number 1. What is your comfort level with navigating the learning site, with getting around on it? We have 3 indicators, and if you've worked in our materials at all, you see that they follow our self-assessment piece for the students. So this is still a goal. I can do this with help, or I can do this independently. So pick one. Give you just another second, so don't overthink it. Okay, Kristen, let's stop there and show us the results. Oh, okay, so we have some people that this may be their first time learning about or jumping into the learning site. Some of you have been on but still need some more experience. Some of you feel pretty comfortable with this. I will tell you that I'm probably going to focus then more on the beginning aspects of this. But let's see what you say to the second poll. Our next poll then, Kristen. What's your comfort level with using the learning site with students? That's a whole different game sometimes. So again, this is still a goal. I can do this with help, or I can do this independently. Okay, let's stop the poll and look at our results. Okay, so our independent people, and maybe it's some of the same people, have been using it with students, and that's probably why they feel comfortable moving around. But there's still a number of you that haven't quite maybe made that leap into doing that, and are going to find yourselves, if you haven't already started with some remote learning with your students, you may have to within the next week. So our third poll then. Prior to now, so prior to this situation, how often have you been using the learning site with students? So never, 1 to 3 times a month, 1 to 3 times a week, or daily. Okay, Very good. Let's stop and see the results. Okay. So about 7% of you are daily users, which is great news. Hopefully very soon, a lot of you will be full-time users. Even when we go back to school, you'll feel comfortable using the learning site with your students on a daily basis. I think it's very, very powerful. And so after the presentation today, thanks, Kristen. I'm hoping that more of you then will feel comfortable doing that. So as I said, I'm probably going to then focus more on some of the basics about the features, but I'm also going to be sharing some strategies or tips about how to make it easier to find the resources you need and to move from one section to the next. So in this first hour, we're going to be looking at the FlexText and how to move from there then into Explorer, which is where all the content is. And so, the FlexText, by its name, you could tell it's the e-textbook. Think of Explorer as your file cabinet. That's where all of the resources are housed, the videos, audios, PDFs, etc. And then we have a way that you can assign tasks to students that makes it then easy for them to just go in, click on an assignment, go to it and complete it. They don't have to go searching through the Explorer to find those assignments. Grades are registered right there on the site, and you can then transfer them if you still need to do that during this time that you're out of school. And then the classroom forum is one of my favorite features. And in fact, next week, I'm going to do a webinar completely about the classroom forum. So I'll be going into much more depth there and showing some sample lessons that I've posted online, that kind of thing. But it's a way to create community and to communicate with your students and them with you, but also student-to-student communication. And then we have that online portfolio. And so some of you who have been using the learning site a lot with your students, excuse me, may want to, if you haven't started using the portfolio, this could be an interesting time to do that and to have students upload examples of the work that show that they can do different learning targets. And then the second hour, we'll have the question and answer segment. So we're now going to delve into the learning site. And so I am going to switch my screen to do just that. And Kristen, let me know if it doesn't happen.
Right now we're seeing your
GoToWebinar screen. So let's switch over to the learning site.
There you go. Now we see your learning site.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to click on the dashboard just to point out that when you first log into the learning site, you're on what we call the dashboard, where you find your courses, and then further down, and for me it's much further down because I have a lot of courses, you find your FlexText library, which is where your e-textbook is. You can go into the course and access all of the resources through either of these. But I tend to just, since I see the course first, I go in through the course and I can access my online textbook as well as all the materials that go with it, look at grades and all of the assignments. I can have multiple copies of a particular book once I have a license for that book. I can have then a different course for each section of the course that I teach. So you see, this is Français 1. And I remember, I have not taught French in too long, but période 2, So this is my second period French class. I could have another one for my third period French 1 class, etc. For the demo, I am going to be going and using my Spanish 1 textbook, but it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if it's the AP text or the, a French or the Italian. They're all set up basically the same. There are a few differences because of the structure of a particular textbook. So when you first click and come into the course, you come into the content tab, and this is what we call Explorer. And this is where all of those resources are housed. Remember I said, think of it as your file cabinet. So we have folders for each of the units. And then within a particular folder, we have subfolders. We have additional folders for each of the sections of the unit. So there's always some sort of cultural introduction, and then what we call the Comunica or Comunica y Explora sections in the Spanish. The French is similar, but with obviously in French. And then within those folders, we break our content down by perhaps the video blogger, but definitely by vocabulary and grammar structures. So in the Spanish, and this is for Entre Culturas, 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's coming out for this fall. And we call our vocabulary así se dice. And so you can see that here there are 3 folders for 3 different sets of vocabulary presentation. In French, that's called comment dit-on. Okay, so you would have the 1, 2, and 3 of the comment dit-on. In the Spanish 2 and 3, you might have 7 or 8 así se dice vocabulary sets. We've chunked that vocabulary into maximum about maybe 12 words. So anywhere from 6 to 12 words per section. The Observa then is our grammar presentation piece. And remember, just as the name implies, Observa, and in French, découvrons, it is a discovery approach. But all of the resources that go with that approach are in these folders. So let me click on a folder to show you an example. Let me go into the vocabulary. Así se dice uno. So these are all the resources that go with the presentation and practice and application of the vocabulary related to the activities in the textbook. So you'll see that very often they're titled by the activity name. So this says Actividad 3, ¿Quién soy? And it'll give the page number. So it makes it really easy to find those materials and relate them to what you're looking at in the textbook. Because our textbooks are set up really well in terms of any new vocabulary or grammar, have a series of activities that help students develop and acquire that grammar structure or that vocabulary. And also, they're very often connected to authentic resources. So they help students access those authentic resources as well. So it goes through those initial steps of building comprehensible input, and through either print or audiovisual resources, then into using the language in interpersonal or presentational modes. So in speaking and writing as well. Let me explain too what some of the icons mean here. And the icons match icons that you'll see in the textbook itself. Obviously, a piece of paper is going to be handout of some kind. They're set up as a PDF. So if I click on this one, it opens up, and you can see then the PDF that if you were in the classroom, you could download, and or maybe some of you are in the classroom, but you can download and print out and share with your students. But they can, through their account, they can access these and download them to their device. And the cool thing is with the PDF, they can type right in it. So these grayed in areas are spaces where they can type and record their answers. They can then save this document, and I don't think it does, maybe it does show up on the screen that you'll see when you move your cursor to the top of the page. You can either download or print a document. Unfortunately, and go to webinar, when I click on one of those, like if I click on print, a pop-up window comes up, which you can't see, but a pop-up window comes up from the print, and I can then choose save as a PDF. If you have Google Drive, you can save it to your Google Drive. And you can have students then save their work and submit it to you. And so those are the PDFs. Anytime you see a page, it's that kind of a document. The stack of papers that you see here are flashcards. And they align with the vocabulary as well. And the information will tell you what kinds of flashcards they are. So this tells us it's Spanish to English. As I move down, I can see that this is Spanish to a picture. So let me click on those and look at those. Students can use the forward and back arrows and the up and down arrows to navigate these. So if I hit the forward arrow, it takes me to the next flashcard, and then the back arrow. And up and down will flip the flashcard so that I can then, see if my answer was right and practice it in that way. Some of the prompts will either be single word, or it might be a definition in the target language, or the word used in context in the target language. So it's nice. I like that progression that the flashcards offer us. What other documents do we have in this particular segment? Obviously, if you see a speaker, it's going to be an audio file. If you see a camera, it's a video file. And those can be downloaded to your computer, and the students can download those as well. The stopwatch with the question in it are activities that have been embedded that the students can complete right online. So let's take a look at this one. It's an activity on page 42 of the level 1 text. There's a little circle afterwards with an eye in it, and if I hover over that, it'll tell me what kind of an activity it is. So this is a fill in the blank task. What I like about these exercises is that they give my students some additional practice in as much as possible within a context. But because they're discrete item, the computer will, quote unquote, grade the task for the students and for you, put that grade in the grade book, but it will show the students which items that they got wrong if they missed any. And then the students can redo the activity. It doesn't give them the correct answers. And in multiple choice items, it will mix up the choices. But it gives the students then the opportunity to redo tasks to try to get the correct answers and acquire either the grammar structure or the vocabulary a little bit better. So let's take a look. I can also preview this activity by clicking on the screen. Now, this is an activity that's also in the textbook, but it's a listening task. So students are going to hear people talk about who they are, and they're going to pick the picture that corresponds to that. They have a drop-down menu. When you do preview, you see what the correct answers are. When the students log in, to try to do that activity, those are blank, and they have to click on the pop-up window, which of course doesn't pop up and go to webinar. But believe me, there's a pop-up window and they have the choices and they choose what they think the correct answer is. But it's a listening. The cool thing is the audio file is embedded right here. So they click and they can control.
Look at the photographs, then listen to the 6 speakers and write down the letter of the.
So they can control, they can pause the audio, they can rewind it, they can listen to it again. And the same is true if there is a video that they're to watch. That video would be embedded here as well. They don't have to open an additional screen and have 2 screens open at the same time. It is all right here for them. Notice that in the preview version, I can either go back and keep checking some other things out, or I could assign it to my kids, like, yes, I want them to do this online. Click, and I'll show you assign and how the steps for that in just a few minutes. Let's go back, because I wanted to point out in these activities that, remember I said if it was an activity aligned with something in the textbook, it has the name of the activity, Actividad 5, Actividad 7. But some of these say extensión. This is additional practice that we've given you beyond what's in the textbook. And what I like about these activities is that they range from some of these discrete items, true, false, yes, no, multiple choice, A, B, C, or D, matching. They move from that into open-ended additional writing or speaking practice. So again, I can look at, hover over the circle after the title, and it'll tell me what kind of task it is. This is a fill in the blank, multiple choice, of recording. So students would then get to record. And let's look at that. People have asked me about these before, if they haven't been on and looked at them before. Like, how does that set up? How do students record themselves? It's like so simple. This is one of those guided conversations like you might find on an AP exam, and this is in level 1. And the French has this as well, right? So, Oscar, you're going to hear Oscar ask you your name and you're going to answer. And then he's going to ask you a question about who you are and you're going to answer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So then the student just has to click start recording.
Hola, soy Oscar. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Me llamo Debbie.
Mucho gusto. ¿Eres artista?
No, sí, soy artista. Y también soy bilingüe y soy profesora.
¡Qué interesante! ¿Eres atleta?
No, no soy atleta. Okay, et cetera, et cetera. So then the student's recording pops right up. They can listen to it, and if they don't like it, they can start audio again, and it'll record over what they had previously recorded. And then they submit it. And we'll take a look in a few minutes when it's recorded and it comes to you, what can you do with it? because you can provide feedback online to their audio and their writing as well. So I love that feature. So those are our extension activities. So you can come and look in the folders to find materials to go with the tasks that are in the book. But I think it's easier to start in the FlexText itself. So we're going to jump over and take a look at the FlexText. Remember, this is the e-textbook. You'll see the tab right across the top right here in Explore course. I don't have to go out to the library to find it. As the teacher, you get to choose between the student and teacher editions of the text. Students obviously only see the student edition. And by the way, everything I'm showing you is pretty much everything that the student sees as well. They're just some obvious control features like assigning and looking at grades that students don't have, right? They can see their own grades, but not those of other students, of course. I'm going to choose the student text. I recommend if you haven't looked at the teacher edition, please do so, because we've included all kinds of notes and suggestions for how to do certain activities or to provide background information about a specific concept. So there's lots of great tips and tricks in there as well. So when you come into the textbook, it's set up just like the table of contents in the actual, hard or soft cover copy of the book that you have. The only difference is that instead of turning pages from, right to left or left to right, you scroll down or up to read the pages. As I said, it's set up just like the textbook. So sections are organized by the cultural information at the beginning, and then by vocabulary or grammar sections. We also have, you'll note that we have formative and summative assessments. And those are in here as well with all of the resources that go with them. In the student text, they see a preview of the assessment so they know what's expected of them. But then all of the nitty-gritty resources that go with that assessment and all of the details are in resources on Explore. In the Spanish, the formative assessment is called In Camino. And I just have to click on the title in the menu and it takes me right there. And in the French, it's called J'avance. And then the summative assessment, which is of course at the end of the unit, in the Spanish is called Vive entre culturas. And in the French, it's called J'y arrive. This is an integrated performance assessment. So it has, it starts with it starts with a prompt. So here you're going to host an exchange student, right? And then it will have an interpretive task, either reading or listening, viewing. In this case, we see the cameras. So we see that the students are going to watch, looks like 2 different videos. They're going to look at profiles of 2 students that they might host. Then there's going to be an interpersonal assessment. So they've had the interpretive. Now the interpersonal, in this case, it's going to be a writing task. It could be writing or speaking, and they're going to write an email, very similar to the AP, right? And then they wind up with then a presentational assessment. In this case, they're going to create their own video to send to introduce themselves to the student that they want to host. All of the details of what to include in their email and their video are found in the content sections. But how do I access those? Well, I can go back over to content and look for that folder and find the resources, or I can quite simply click on the compass icon. Every time you see the compass, it's referring to Explorer. Get it? Explorer, compass, right? And Explorer is the content section. Remember my file cabinet wherever all of the resources are housed. So if I click on that, it will show me all of the resources that are available to go with this particular activity. So here we see that we have one of those embedded activities. We see the stopwatch with the question mark. I can click on that and it takes me right to that activity. So I've jumped from the FlexText to content, to that folder, Vive Entre Culturas, to that activity. I didn't have to go searching for it. I can preview, and what it does is it has the prompt and then provides a place for students to write their response and submit it. So then I can assign it and students can find it under assignments and complete it the day of the quiz. So now I go, or the test, and so now I want to go back to my e-textbook and keep looking at other resources for that assessment. So to get back, I don't have to click on FlexText and try to find the page I was at. I can simply click on the link. Students have this too. So all they have to do is click on that FlexText Entre Culturas or Entre Couture or Apprenon or Triangulo, whatever text they're in, link, and it will take them right to that page. As the teacher, you have links for the teacher edition too. So if I click on that, voila, it took me right back to that activity. Same thing down here for the presentational. I click on that. I see there's another embedded activity because remember, I'm going to record a video. So it takes me there to be able to do that. Let's see what we have for the interpretive task. Remember, they were videos. So let me click on the camera or on the compass, and you'll see that I have a lot of documents to go with this one, which is very cool. I have the rubric because it's the first activity. It also has linked to the rubric right here. We have a specific rubric for the summative assessment, so I can click. It's a document, so it's going to open it up right here in a new tab for me. So there's the rubric for the summative assessment. I click back on my window. We like to provide these resources in a variety of formats. So you saw that the interpersonal writing and the presentational speaking were in embedded activities for kids to do online and submit to you, which is very cool when you're working remotely. But you also have the option of downloading all of this as a handout, and you could assign this to the students in that way as well. Here for the listening, the students are going to watch the videos and they have checklists they have to complete. You know, we try not to have their ability to speak or write inhibit their ability to show us what they know from what they read and listen to. You know, we don't want their language production to interfere with their ability to show us their comprehension. So you'll see lots of checklists or maybe fill in the blank or sometimes multiple choice on those kinds of listening or reading tasks. This particular handout then has everything. So I could have my students do the email on this handout, or they could simply go to a Word doc and complete it there and upload it for me as well. The speaking, this allows them to write their script, and then the audio, remember, they can do online with us as well. And this is true for all kinds of any of the activities that are available in the text. So for example, remember the activity we saw earlier? The listening that they did. So here it is in the book. The pictures are right here, and notice they're already labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. I can click on the compass and it will take me to that particular activity. And then I can come back to the text. It makes it very easy to navigate. I wanted to go back here to the summative assessment because the other thing you probably noticed was that the videos were right here. I can link to them under content and go over to the content folder and have kids look at them that way and assign them. But I can also, once you're back in class, you can show them right from here as well. And you can click on the little square here and make these full screen and play the video. Or even if you're, doing synchronous kind of learning, maybe you're meeting with your kids via Zoom or Google Hangout or some other format, and you could show the video through there in this way as well and have discussions about it and talk about that or do assessment as needed. Okay, so I wanted to show you, we were navigating the FlexText, our e-textbook, by clicking on the menu panel, and that's this first icon that you see here across the top. But there are some other icons that help you in terms of navigation. The second one is a search. I personally don't use this too much because so much comes up when I do that. Anything that has that particular keyword is going to show up, and it can be a really long list unless I type in something specific, right? Like actividad 4, and I'll get every actividad 4 from every unit, right? So, there's an art to searching. I'm more apt to use the paper that's right next to it with the arrow, because that is my jump to page icon. I can click on that, type in a specific page, hit return, and it will take me right to that page, which is very, very convenient. These two little arrows, when I click on those, they collapse and hide that menu, so I can then display this and show it, have conversations with my students about whatever the content is here, have them talk about the pictures and what they see or what they mean, lead the students through the discovery approach for the grammar, etc. And then the last icon, the little notebook with the pencil, is really interesting. This is a feature that I love that we have here, is that I can click and drag. Oh, and of course it's not going to do it now. I can click and drag on a word and leave a note. So as the teacher, I can leave notes for myself about different strategies I might have used to get kids into a group or to have them read a particular article, et cetera, et cetera. I can color code my notes for myself. So let's see what I set up here. Page 53, TPS. So I used a TPS strategy to do this vocabulary. It works really well for that. What did I say for this one? I can have the students, I want them to do this online. Okay, so using some sort of program online. Okay, if I click on that little notebook or notepad with the pen, it brings up for me all of these little notes that I've created. And so if I click on one, it will take me right to that page with that note. Okay, so kind of a cool little feature that we've added in there. For the students, I love to have my students interact with the text, so I can have them highlight maybe the cognates and put those in yellow, or new vocabulary and put that in green, or blue to focus in on a grammar structure, or pink to show something that was an aha for them, or purple if they have a question and they have to type the question into the note that pops up. Okay, so very cool. Lots of ways you can use those with your students. Okay, so we've talked about the content and about assigning things, assigning different tasks. Let me see. Oh, this is one I can assign. So let me click on that, go over to this activity. And I want my students to do this. I've checked it out. I like it. You know, I'm going to have them do this online. So right here, I can click on assign. So obviously students see attempt and they see their grade, but that's it. You can preview it, you can try it out yourself. You can see the grades of all your students who did that activity, which is very cool. And then you can transfer those to your real grade book. Or you can assign. We'll talk about settings a little bit later. Assigning, of course they already did this. So let me find an activity that they haven't done yet. And let's, here's one, good. Notice, if you didn't notice what I was doing, it says assign, 5 students assigned this. So it's telling me right there that it was assigned. You just have to pay attention to that. So let me click on assign, and voila, my class pops up. If you have more than one section of a particular class, so let's say I had 2 sections of Spanish 3, Entre Culturas 3. Even though I'm in period 5's class, my other class list will show up here as well. So I can assign this activity for all my classes from whichever class I'm in at the moment. I don't have to get out of this class and go into the next class and repeat the whole assignment piece. I love this. I know I keep saying that I love features, but I do. I just love so many features of the learning site. And this is one that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm very much into differentiation for my students. And this is really cool because I can select which students I have do certain exercises or activities, especially some of these extensiones. Not everybody needs to do additional vocabulary practice. Or some of the vocabulary practice or the grammar practice are open-ended additional writing or speaking tasks. And so maybe some of my advanced students or my heritage learners can go deeper with a particular set of vocabulary or on a particular topic. So I can assign those tasks to them so I can differentiate. Very often when you're doing the assignments, though, you will select all students. So I just click that box at the top, everybody gets chosen. Next step, I set the due date. Let's make it for next Tuesday. I can set the time. I always like midnight. One minute to midnight. And then I can click assign now. Or I can click Assign with Delay. So it won't show up on the assignment list until the date that I indicate. So this was due Tuesday. So maybe I set my Assign with Delay for Monday. So it won't show up on the list until Monday. No, so you have that option. I'm going to go ahead and assign it now. Everything looks good. Voila. And so now when I go to assignments, you'll see that it popped up right here at the top of the list. So now we're in assignments. I can also assign tasks right here as well. I like to use this feature if I'm assigning more than one task for a given due date. With the other, I just assign one thing at a time. But with this, I can click on a unit. I need to know which assignments, I want to include. And then I can simply check the box of the items that I want to assign, and they show up over here on the right, or I can double click and they'll show up there as well. And then the next steps are all the same. I choose my students, I choose my due date, etc. So this works really nicely for adding multiple assignments with the same due date. On this list, you can sort. So you could either sort by activity title, by the date it was assigned, by the due date, and you can sort in the item, for example, on the due date, the item that's due sooner versus the item that's due later, right? And vice versa. You have lots of information here, so check it out. It'll tell you how many students have completed an assignment. It'll tell you if something's overdue. It'll tell you if you have to grade it. There'll be a little yellow dot by an assignment, by the student name, to tell you that you have to see. We see one right here that tells us that we have something to grade. When you click on students, that's where you see who did and didn't turn an assignment in. It's color coded, just like a traffic light. And you can click on the link that will take you to that student's work, and you could grade it then, right, in an organized world. The other feature that I love better than the list view is the calendar view, and the calendar view is the default for your students. And so it makes it really easy, very visual. This is the activity that we just added a few minutes ago. For the students, it makes it very simple. They click on the title of the activity, and it takes them right there. So your students are going to come into either the FlexText and do work, or they're going into assignments. Those are the two tabs that they're really working with. Let's look at grades real quickly. Under grades, you have obviously a list of all of your students. They only see their grades when they click on that tab. If the computer or you have graded an assignment, you see their grades listed here. Remember, they can do an assignment multiple times. So then if they've done it more than once, like here, Annie did this assignment twice. So we see her first attempt was a 50%. She did it twice. So her last attempt was 100. The average of the two is 75. Her highest grade is 100. Let the students know if you're going to take any of these grades and record them somewhere, which ones you're going to record, right? Let them know ahead of time. And very often, because so many of these activities are really formative practice, you may not want to record them officially in your textbook at all. This is your practice time. And instead, you're focusing in on those in camino or Javance formative assessments, or the summative assessment, the Vive entre culturas, or in the French, the J'y arrive. assessment. The evaluation column lets you know what you have to grade, that there's something that you need to grade. So here's one, has a 1 in it. If she had 2 attempts, it would have said 2. So let me click and let's see what it is. I get some great data. It tells me when she did it, how long it took her to do it. And there were 2 questions. So let's take a peek. It's a speaking assignment. I love, love, love this feature. So as I'm listening, she has to record as many, remember this is level 1, first unit, record as many questions as she can, that might be asked of her. And so for 2 minutes, she's just going to ask questions. So as I'm listening, ¿de dónde eres? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? Boom. I can click on add a comment. Notice down here, 8 seconds in, I paused it to add a comment, and I might say to her, buenas preguntas, and then I click play and it keeps going. I can do that as often as I need to. You can see here some of the comments I put in earlier for her. She had another great question, 11 seconds in, 19 seconds in. Let's see, notice that there's a link. I can record my feedback. I can give oral feedback as well as written. And so the student sees this, they see the comments, they know where it applies to. Oh, so I asked her, so what happened? There's a long pause in the middle of her response. Isn't that cool? So what if I realize, oh wait, I said that twice. Or once I listened to the whole thing, I realize, oh wait, this comment isn't appropriate. I can simply click on the X and delete the comment before she sees it. I then need to assign a grade according to my rubric. I can leave an overall comment, click save, and she gets notification that it's been graded. The writing is very similar, except that to grade a writing task, I don't think I have one there. Let me look under Serena. I think I might have a writing here. Oh, no, that looks like another video. Let's try this. ¿Qué tienes en común con Paola? So let's see. Yes. So on the writing, remember what I could drag and highlight? I can do the same on my students' writing. So I highlight, I can leave a note, giving her some feedback. I can color code it. So she knows that if it's in blue, it's had something to do with word choice. Or if it's in purple, it's a kudo. It's something nice that I'm going to say about her writing. Or if it's in yellow, it's a comment of something that maybe I agree or disagree with what she wrote, etc. You come up with your own legend for that. But it's a great way to provide feedback to the students. So when they come in, they just click on those words and can see the feedback that you've provided them. Again, you assign a grade and you can leave an overall comment. So we've looked at our file folder, our content folder. We've looked at the FlexText, which is the easiest way to navigate back and forth and find activities that go along with, or resources that go along with our activities. We've looked at assignments. We've looked at grades. Under students, you have a link to the student's portfolio. The students access their portfolio up here on the bar across the top here where it says portfolio. But as a teacher, you're going to access it under the student tab. I'm going to click on view portfolio, and this shows me all of the can-do statements for, in this case, level 1, and the ones that she has submitted evidence for. I can filter these. So I could filter by show me the ones she's completed. So that's all I'll see. show me, remember we have can-dos that are intercultural or communicative. So show me a communicative one. And I want to look at one, we're in Unit 6. Let me look at Unit 6 and see what she's uploaded to show that she can do these things. So I can identify geographical features and explain their location in relation to each other. She has uploaded 2 pieces of evidence, it looks like, and in her self-assessment, remember we did this is still a goal, I can do this with help, I can do this independently. She still needs some help to do this. So let's take a peek. Students can upload any kind of file, anything, video, PowerPoint, PDF, Word doc, whatever they've completed. They can also link to any of the online activities, and that's what she did here. And then she can write a reflection and talk about how well she did, what she'd like to do better, what she needs to do to improve, you know, etc. You can set the guidelines for the kinds of things students should include in their reflection. I can then post a comment for her, and then she gets a little indication that I've reviewed her portfolio. Let me look at another one. Oh, so here she added for this talking about clothing for different weather conditions. She uploaded or linked to an online activity that she did, but then she also recorded herself. So right in this, she can do audio or video recording. So if you want kids to show you extemporaneously how well they can, you know, describe what they wear in certain weather conditions, they can do that as opposed to sharing something that was pre-prepared, right? So great way to have both kinds of evidence to see really to what extent can they do these learning targets. Well, very cool. And the last thing I'm going to show, I'm going to go over our first hour just a little bit, but I wanted to show you these settings. You have control over some of the features on the learning site. So I wanted to show you what you can control. The first is under assignments. You can, the default is that we don't award a penalty for assignments turned in late, but you can turn that on and then you would assign a percentage. So if you have that turned on and a student turns an assignment in late, the grade is reduced by, in this case, 50%. Okay, so you could control that. Under quiz, which doesn't mean quiz, remember, it just means activity for us. You can, by default, the grade book here will designate items as passed or fail, right? You can hide that. Like if you're working more with the philosophy of the students are approaching expectations or meeting expectations or surpassing expectations, or the concept that this is still a goal, we're just not there yet, then you may want to hide that pass-fail status. The other thing that you can control is the number of times kids can do each of the activities. The default is 3, so they have 3 attempts. I have a lot of you who've reported that you set it at 100 attempts, and that way students can just go in and do activity as much as they need to practice. And then sometimes you might want to set an activity at 1 attempt because maybe you're going to count it as a formative assessment. Lots of the activities can be used in that way. So what you can do for those is when you look at a task, and let me go look at this extension, for example, you can see that I have a settings control panel here as well. So with that, I can change those settings for specific activities. and then leave all the rest. Like I have it set at 100, so everything else is left at 100, but this particular activity is set at only one attempt because I'm going to collect it for feedback, right? So you can change some of those settings. And then the other thing you can change is the passing grade, because we know that passing is different for each of your schools and districts. A feature that teachers like a lot is the show and hide content. By default, when students click on their content tab, they see everything. So they can come into the folders and look at materials and look for activities. And we know they're just like itching to do all of them, right? So they can do that, which means they can see all of the assessment data. So they can see the not data, but the resources for the assessment. So they can see all the nitty gritty of the videos that they're going to watch and what they have to include in their writing prompt, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't want them to see all of those items before the day of the assessment, you can come in to the settings and hide that content. And when you do, it will show up as grayed in on your content bar, but the students will see nothing. Those two folders, my In Camino and my Vive Entre Culturas, do not even show up on their version of the content tab. So let's go back to settings then. You can see that I have a little bar here that shows me that I've hidden something. Otherwise, if everything was showing, there'd be a check mark. So if I click on the title, I can see then what I've hidden. And I hide something by just unchecking the box. So if I uncheck this compara, it's hidden. The students can't see it at all. I can hide entire folders, or I can just hide certain things within a folder. So maybe in the In Camino, I don't want them to see the, or to be able to listen to the audio ahead of time. But the other things are okay because it's the same information that was in their textbook, so no big deal. So then that would be the only file that would be hidden from them. Oh, excuse me, now it's showing. Well, that's interesting. There we go. And so then I could click on the audio file and it's hidden, and that's the only file that's not showing. Some of you like to hide folders that students aren't completing yet. So you unveil a folder, you know, a unit as you come to it, and build their bank of content material that way, so that, you know, maybe they're not overwhelmed. Okay. I think there's just one more thing to squeeze in. I have to show you this because remember I said it was my favorite thing, is the classroom forum. When I click on that, it's kind of like Facebook, right? So it's a way to communicate with your students back and forth. You simply post, you write a post, and then click post, and it will show up on the screen. Real simple. You can upload files, you can do audio and video recordings and post them. And so let's take a look at some of the things. You know, you might post a video of yourself talking about what you're going to be learning that particular day. So here, Michelle, one of our other instructional coaches, has done just that. I'll play just a little bit of it.
Hi. So here in this audio or this video text box, you can quickly hit start recording and record either a short mini lesson or maybe just a note to your students. Yeah.
Okay. And students can listen to that. You can upload images and have students do an activity with it. So this says, click on the photo and answer the questions in your response to this message. So when students click on the picture, it pops up and it says, where are the cow and the dolphin going and how are they getting there? Real funny kind of little meme. And so then the students type their answers. They're going to the beach, they're going to swim. Obviously, we're practicing that going to a place and going to do something structure. Or I can share information about different cultural aspects, or I can share songs or videos. Those of you who teach Spanish probably know that the Feria de Abril is coming up, or would be coming up in Sevilla, Spain. It's postponed, not canceled, just postponed. I have a link that I've put in here that students can go and watch a video about it. And then in their reply, they're going to write 3 things they learned about the Feria and then talk about would they want to go and why or why not. Okay, so lots of fun ways that you can interact with your classes. Also, on your own, make sure, or if you have questions about these, there is a recursos folder. Students see all of these resources, rubrics, graphic organizers, the can-do statements, all of the grammar videos, but they don't see the Solo para Profesores folder, or the Only for Teachers folder that the French also has. And you're going to find things like additional assessment items for midterms or finals, answer keys, audio scripts, and a variety of other documents that you may find useful. So check those out. Whew. So, Kristen and Jen, let's turn to some of those questions that I hope you've been getting.
Yeah, great. The first one just came in, and since you're on this page, I'm going to ask it. Can you show where they go to get to that classroom forum again? Because it's kind of hidden if you don't.
It is, because if you've been navigating and moving around between your content and your FlexText, you lose the classroom forum. The easy thing to do then is right here above this little search bar is I think they call them breadcrumbs, but it's like a path. So I'm in the Solo para Profesores, which was in the recursos, which is part of the course. If I click on the course name, that will close everything up and bring me back to the main page. And at the bottom of the list of folders on the right-hand side is the classroom forum.
I wanted to mention a way I like to use the classroom forum as well, and that's as like a virtual gallery walk where you have students, maybe if students create a PowerPoint or create their own meme or some kind of image with some text or just a simple text, a document. They can, as their reply, they can post their PowerPoint or post their document they created, and other students can go in and give them feedback and comments and ask questions about it. So this is a way that students can work with each other virtually and provide feedback to or comments to each other.
Another question?
Yeah, another question. Can you show on our company website where the information about Google Classroom is? We had a couple people asking, and while you're navigating there, maybe Jen can talk a little more about Google Classroom.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Google Classroom is our newest integration that we offer teachers. So in addition to Canvas and Schoology, you can also share documents from the learning site directly into your Google Classroom. And while Debbie's navigating in the chat, I'm going to also post the link that Debbie's going to be showing from our company website, how to see our guide on Google Classroom and a short tutorial video about how to do that, or what it will look like in case you're new to Google Classroom. And if you're just want to get in touch with your account manager, if that's something that you're interested in. Yep, so go ahead and click Learning Site, Debbie.
So
And then
learning
you'll notice,
site at the top.
yeah. And then the little drop down, there's 2 places. The newest, click on integrations. And then if you click on the link for Google Classroom, this just gives you a list of our integrations and student information system integrations we do. But we have a brand new page dedicated just to Google Classroom.
And there's a little video that will talk about it and show it to you, and right, and all the features.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's so great. You could just, it's going to be as simple as share from the content side. Debbie showed how you can preview, how you can assign, and you can change your settings. And it'll be a little button from share and take you through to Google Classroom. So it's really great. You can have access to 2 platforms at your district.
And you'll see that we integrate with a number of programs, including Canvas and Schoology. I think those top 3 are probably among the most popular, right?
Yes.
Debbie, someone is asking if you can show how to access the evaluation on grades.
What do you mean?
Maybe how do you see the grades? How do you access or how do students access the evaluation of their grades, perhaps?
So like going in as a student, maybe? Can we get maybe clarification?
Yeah. Alicia, if you could send me some clarification on that question, I can re-ask it and we can get it answered for you. Oh, to grade submissions, she said.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah.
So when you click on the grade tab, there's several different ways to get here, but click on the grade tab, and then so for example, let me click on Serena for her work. I can see then the grades that she's earned for different activities, different tasks. And so then I could transfer those to my grade book. I personally like to transfer them by hand, like typing them in myself into my school grade program, just because it helps me focus on how well they did. Where if I just export and import, I'm not really looking at them as much. So like she scored a 35, I'm going to be able to click on there then on the title and go in and see like, oh, what happened? And then I can drill down and see what she missed and how well she did on those certain activities. If it's an activity or that I need to grade, so here in the evaluation column, there was a 1, and I click on that, then I can go in and see her responses, and I can listen to the audio, and as I'm listening, click on add a comment and give her feedback. And then click on play again and listen, and I can add comments as often as I need to. I hope that's answering that question.
It does. She responded that she understands now. So you did answer.
I was going to say, Debbie, if you want to click on the assignments tab as well, we do have the indicator that shows which are items that require grading. So there'll be a little yellow icon that gets shown to teachers, and then for students on their side, it'll show when something has been graded.
So here you see there's a yellow dot by students, and this is another way I can get there. When I click on that, it will show me who has submitted their work, and then I can click and it will take me then to that so that I could grade it. Under assignments on the student view, remember their default is the calendar view. And this is what Jen was saying, that if their assignment's overdue, there's a little triangle, and that if something requires grading, but this is the teacher view. On the student view, they get a little indicator that shows them that you graded something. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Let's go in as a student. So you can see there's a little exclamation point in yellow here by assignments. Remember, I just assigned a task. So that's highlighted, that lets her know that there's an assignment. She gets notifications up here. There are 212. She does not read her notifications. And then under grades, or excuse me, it was under assignments, I'm sorry. It will show if something's graded.
Yes, so up at the top is the legend icon where it's overdue or graded. And then if you click on an individual activity, you'll see how you see the red. This particular item month, it doesn't look like anything's been graded. The icon will show up, but if you open up the activity again, I was gonna share how it talks about how something's been completed. Yeah, go ahead and hit the list. So someone did ask a question about how students see when things are completed or marked as complete or not complete.
So so it warns her that these are due tomorrow. These are overdue. I love the color coding. And then these are ones that she submitted on time. Is that right?
That have been completed.
Yes.
Okay, we have another.
Go ahead. Sorry, Kristen.
Okay, so we have another question. This one's from Laura, and she is asking about the simulated conversations, and particularly those in level 3. So you two are level 3 experts since you're both authors on the textbook. She says she's having a hard time finding simulated conversations in level 3. Can you point out where she might find some?
So we can definitely send a list out of items. One of the nice things about getting to work with the learning site and hearing all the customer feedback that comes in is how we can make continuous improvement. So that is something on our list. If you go to the content side, Debbie, I know you're logged in as a teacher, but just to give everybody on the call some context, they have the search for teachers. We do have on our to-do list to put a drop down that says simulated conversations, so that way you can find them easier.
Okay.
I know right off the top of my head, I do not remember where any.
There's definitely some. There's definitely many, several to practice.
And they're associated. I know for sure that there are some with the En Camino or the Vive Entre Culturas activities.
So if you look at the little eye icon that Debbie was highlighting next to quizzes or online tasks, it will come up to say simulated conversation when appropriate. So that does help.
Can you show that perhaps, Debbie? I think in unit 3, is it unit 3? Where in the Vive Entre Culturas, there might be a simulated conversation.
Comparative recording, that's exactly the one, yes.
So if she just hovers over the eye, it'll say comparative recording if it is a simulated conversation.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, we have a question about exporting grades. Jen, you might be able to answer this one. Can grades be exported to Tyler SIS or Canvas?
That's a great question. So we are, again, working on making many enhancements to our learning site, including the gradebook. Stay tuned for the start of next school year where you'll see a fresh newly enhanced gradebook. And one of those things that we're going to be improving is the ability to do grades pass back between different platforms. So Canvas is definitely on our list. The other one, you said Tyler SIS, we'll be sure to cross-reference that and ensure that, so just stay tuned. If you ever are always wondering what's happening on the learning site, if you hover over to the top part where it says what's new, we release items every month that's new on the learning site. We just had our most recent one last week, and you'll be able to stay in touch in addition to newsletters. But right now, as Debbie was highlighting, you can export your grades and you can download it as a file, and you can definitely then cross input into the platform that you need to enter your grades into.
So you can select, remember you had first grade, last grade, highest, average. So you can pick one. So everything you're going to export today would all have that same designation. So if I was doing, the highest, then anything I'm choosing today, it's only going to show me their highest grade. And that's what I'm going to be transferring. I can do a range of dates. So I can, it's set up the last month, the last week, but I can choose a range of dates. And then I can, and this I find really interesting, I can either choose the quizzes that were assigned or all the quizzes that students even tried to do. Because, they may try to do some things on their own just because they're so motivated. And so I have that, I can sift or, sort which quizzes or tasks I get the grades downloaded. And then that exports as an Excel spreadsheet, which you can usually then, you might have to do a little bit of modification if you have created categories or weights for your grade book. And then you can usually import that as a CSV file into your grade program. There are a few steps with it. Like Jen said, we're trying to find ways that will make that transport a little bit easier.
Okay, speaking of making things easier, we have a teacher who has a demo account now, but they are adopting Entre Culturas for next year. And she was wondering if she's going to have to set up all her classes, like you have your classes set up right now, Debbie, that you were demoing from, or is this something that Wayside helps them do?
Woo-hoo-hoo. I, as much as possible, would get Wayside to help me do this. If you look at, come under, I think it's under Learning Site on our website. So you would come to Learning Site, and then you're going to come down to something that's called rostering. And there are a couple of different ways that your IT and our IT can talk to each other to set the classes up for you. And so they either use something called Clever or One Roster. Those are probably the two most popular. And the nice thing about that is then that, any changes that take place in your classes, like let's say a student drops or a new student moves in, the databases are usually updated overnight. And, so then that data is updated for you. You don't have to add students or delete students from your files, but it makes it really, really nice. And then because of the integration, then students are using whatever password or username and password that they use to get onto anything in your school. Like if they have a school assigned login, that same login is used for their ability to get into the learning site. And then depending if you have a learning management system like Canvas or Schoology or Google Classroom, the students, when they log into Canvas or, for example, Schoology, there'll be a link or an icon. They just click on that and it automatically opens into our learning site. So there's that kind of seamless integration as well. But think about rostering so that you don't have to assign codes or have kids create their own accounts and sign in. And okay. Remember,
Yeah.
our website, learning site, rostering.
Okay. Someone is asking about, sorry, I was in the middle of typing an answer to a question here. Let me get back to the other question. That the school has purchased the books. They've had the books for a while, but they've never accessed student accounts. And they're wondering, do they need to buy the right to access the site? So do they have to purchase additional, something additional to use a learning site if they've purchased textbooks?
No, if you purchase a physical textbook, then access to the learning site automatically comes with that, all of the digital components. But it is a one-to-one assignment. So each student has to have his or her own account to be able to log in and do any of these online activities. Because you saw their grades, there's a whole privacy issue, which we take very seriously. So if you have 100 students and you've purchased 100 textbooks, you have 100 accounts. Some districts have gone ahead and purchased accounts, the digital component for, like, say, 6 years. So their students, next year will be able to have accounts, and the year after and the year after, because every year students need a new login, a new account to be able to get in and access the new text. I mean, their username and password would stay the same, but they'd be set up in this new course with a new login. Those logins are good for a year, so the majority of districts may set up, let's say you set up August 10th and you started your courses, enrolled your students on August 10th. They will have access until August 10th of the next year. Yeah.
Okay. Going back to integrations now. Jen, do you know, is Wayside considering Microsoft 365 as one of the platforms that grades will be synced with?
I saw Everett's question, or Caitlin, sorry, and I just added it to our list of feedback. So at this time, we do not integrate with Microsoft 365, but I just added it to our list. So stay tuned.
Okay, Debbie, this question is going to be for you about Azulejo and the AP Spanish Lit course. They want to know how integrated is Azulejo to the AP College Board. They're teaching the class and would like to only use one site.
Well, and this is it, believe me. In Azulejo and with the online as well, you can see that the units are structured around the different movements or time periods by different centuries. And within there, then you have the authors and the readings that are applicable to that particular text. And you'll see it better on the text than in the content piece. One of the things that, because in the content, you're just getting the online resources that go with that. So here, for example, in Unit 1, here were your authors. For each of those, you're going to have, in addition to the actual reading, you have biographical details about the authors, you have historical details, cultural references. We also have all kinds of activities and questions that model what the expectations are on the AP. There is an appendix at the end that provides support for writing the essay, understanding and analyzing poetry, all of those components and pieces that you need for your kids to be successful on the exam. It's all right here.
Great. Ooh, this is a good question. What kind of activities do students enjoy? Have we gotten any feedback on that?
I know that students enjoy with the Entre Culturas and the Entre Couture, they enjoy meeting the video bloggers. Each unit has a video blogger who's a young person who's created one or more videos for us talking about themselves and their situation in relationship to whatever the theme is. So if the theme is about food, they'll talk about their meals and what they eat and what they like to have for a snack and that kind of thing. These are real young people. We've given them some guidelines, but they don't have a script. They talk and just share information with us based on whatever those guidelines were. And so sometimes some of the things that they share have prompted us to then go look for additional resources when we were writing the books in order to piggyback off of what they said and extend it. So for example, in the Spanish one, in Unit 1, Maria Laura, they're real people. So she is the niece of a Spanish teacher in Pennsylvania who is friends with one of our level 1 authors. So she's a real kid. She lives in Paraguay. She talks about the fact that she's bilingual. She speaks Spanish and Guarani. She plays the violin, and she rides a motorcycle to orchestra practice, that kind of thing. So the focus of the unit added then, because it's about identity and language, and then identity and music. And so they added some resources and opportunities for students to talk and write around those two topics based on what Maria Laura shared.
I think another activity they enjoy is the opportunity to actually do the oral recordings and have multiple opportunities. If they don't like the first recording, they can go in and redo it. And then the feedback that you can provide them, that you can provide both oral feedback and written feedback. I think students appreciate the fact that they're getting that specific feedback on what they're trying to say and the time.
Well, and along with that, I know they like the control feature. So they like being able to, if I'm listening to something, I'm controlling it. It isn't that, how we play the cassette. I'm dating myself, but we play the audio, and then they're all yelling at us that it's going too fast. Can you rewind it? Can you stop it there? Well, they can do that. And so they can build up their ability to play it in one fell swoop. And they like having that control of being able to rewind, pause, fast forward in both audio and video recordings. Gives them a lot of flexibility, plus being able to do activities more than once, to try and do better at something is a feature that I've seen that kids enjoy.
Great, I have another question here. And this is more of a suggestion, I think. But someone says, have you guys created a platform where teachers could share their ideas and projects done from students for each unit in the learning sites? Because we haven't, but I thought I would share that as a suggestion from one of the teachers out there.
I love it, and we all love it. And it's another one of my stay tuned, because that is something that we have been thoroughly investigating and want to make come true for you guys on the learning site, so you can have even a stronger community of sharing and communicating with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
One of our Entre Culture users is asking if the level 3 book will be ready for next school year. Debbie, do you want to let them know?
Yes, they are working feverishly to finish that and have it ready by the fall. You know, if you get a demo account, which you can do yourself, you can go on to our website and sign up for a demo if you don't already have it. But you'll see we've got the first 2 units on here for you to take a look at and see how it's going to be set up, and you know what the approach is like, which in essence is just a continuation of what we have for the French 1 and 2, which again is similar to the Spanish as well. So yeah, that'll be ready for the fall.
Jen,
Along with, I'm just going to put in a plug. Along with, we'll also be ready for the fall with Entre Culturas 4. So.
Jen, there's another integration question. This one is asking about integrating with Aries. Is that how you pronounce it? Aries gradebook?
Yes, Aries. Yes, we have definitely heard about Aries. The first step for us is integrating with the student information system, and then the next phase will be doing grades pass back. So be on the lookout that we do have that on our radar to be able to sync grades up and do rostering with Aries.
Okay, and the last question I have, unless we get another one in, and this one actually came in way back at the beginning of the webinar, but a teacher who is currently teaching with Entre Culturas asked about any recommendations we might have for teaching it using Zoom in this time of virtual teaching. While you guys, well, I see Jen is like nodding her head. I did a little Google search in the background while during the webinar, and Debbie, if you can go to this website, it's fltmag.com. Like, I don't know if it's foreign language technology magazine, I think. So fltmag.com /
Wait, you have to go slow. I'm not good at.
Okay, FLTMAG, like magazine, mag.
So FLT?
Yes, FLTMAG.com /LETS Zoom.
So let's see.
And we can post that link in the chat for you guys too.
This is a digital magazine put out by some university professors. One here in Colorado. And
from IO. Good.
Yeah. So I thought this was a pretty good article that talks about teaching foreign language specifically using Zoom.
So yeah, Zoom is so great because you can share your screen to project our learning site platform and communicate with students. You can even create groups and put students in little digital areas where they can communicate and share items, and it's a great tool to use.
And they can record their interactions and
lessons.
Save them and share them with you if you've given them some speaking tasks and that sort of thing. So and I believe that Zoom is offering a free subscription for the next couple of months for educators. So it's a good time to connect with them and check that out and get it set up. And they do all kinds of like they have video tutorials, they have great customer service, and if you contact them, they'll work with you and walk you through how to do things if they're kind of the person that likes to see it demonstrated rather than just read about it. But yeah, check them out. They have lots of supports in that way.
We've got one more question in while we're answering that one. And this one is from Karen, and she's asking, how long would it take for the average middle school student to learn their way around the learning site?
That's a great question. Debbie, or did you want to chime in?
I was teaching 7th and 8th grade before I started doing this. And I was surprised, and you know, I know this is unique. My kids were really good at knowing their way around their phones. They weren't as good as knowing their way around a computer per se, but that's the beauty, I think, of our learning site, is that it can be accessed on any device, so they can use their phones if they have an iPhone, or if they're using a tablet like an iPad, any iOS device, they're going to have to download an app. Anything else, they just need to use Chrome as their browser, and they, you know, go to the learning site and log right in. Kids are pretty intuitive with these things. So like they know, which I did not know, they'll click right on their name, boom, and click on this picture and upload a new file. I would never have thought that I could do that. Like, it would never have occurred to me to click on that picture and that I would be able to change it. And maybe that's just me, but so that, you know, they'll figure out pretty easily. I think that you will need to walk them through. I think it's pretty simple. They'll only see 1 or 2 books on their dashboard. They won't see all of this like I do. And so intuitively, they'll know to go click right in here. But I think the tendency then is to click into folders. And that's why I encourage you to explain to them and train to them that they're going to come in and go to 2 places. They're either going to go to their book, so they're going to click on FlexText and go to a certain page according to your directions, or, well, 3 places, or they're going to come into assignments and see assignments. And as you're setting this up, and you might want to come to the webinar on Tuesday to see this, the first place in this day and age of, you know, being working remotely, have them come into the content and scroll down and come immediately into the classroom forum, because this is where you're going to set up the messages for the day. So they're going to see today, you know, you can type in today's date and give them directions on what they need to do today. You can share, you know, I always like to start my classes with a cartoon. So you might have a cartoon posted that they have to react to in the target language, or maybe a little video they watch, or a video that you've made, you know, some introduction, and then directions. You know, tell them, go to your assignments and go to the assignment tab and do 3 assignments listed there, you know? So train them, explain in your first, you know, message to them that you want them to come into the classroom forum, and then from there they'll be going to assignments or to the FlexText.
I would also add to that, teaching them the language portfolio and how they can upload evidence. And then also on the Need Help button, there are a couple of documents, Getting Started guide, and then Learning Site at a Glance, where it is, you know, more for the teachers, but there are items that you could shorten to provide to the students if they need a little bit more detail.
Great, thanks for mentioning that, Jen, because we just had someone ask if there was a training video for students. So we don't have a training video specifically for students, but parts of those Getting Started tutorial and the Learning Site at a Glance could help students. Great, that was the last question we have in our list of questions right now. So I think that's a webinar.
It is. If you have any other questions, I'm leaving this need help button open. You can get live support from us by calling this phone number. We have people manning the phones all the time, so you'll get someone, during office hours, and they may have other times as well to respond. You can always email, and this feedback button is nice because you can submit information, and again, they get back to you within 24, 48 hours max. If you have, an emergency kind of help that you need, then give us a call.
We're getting a lot of messages saying thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very helpful that the 2 hours flew by. It was so good. So thank you, Debbie. Thanks,
Thank
Jen,
you all.
for all your answers. And happy teaching.
Yeah. Stay safe, stay well, and enjoy exploring this and trying this new innovation out with your kids.
Before we log off, just a reminder that the recording to this webinar will be sent out in a follow-up email within 24 hours. If you don't get that email link, it will be posted on our waysidepublishing.com website under the remote learning. Are you going to show that, Debbie?
I am.
Great. It will show up here as well. You can see we currently have posted the webinar from last week. We'll post the new one as well. And any information on upcoming webinars will be there as well. So
yeah, the one Debbie's doing Tuesday is listed there as well. And we posted those things in the chat for you as well if you need it.
Thank you. Thanks. So bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
good night.